Music in gaming has come a long way, from simple 8-bit bleeps and bloops to full orchestral masterpieces. But some soundtracks aren't just background music, they're the heartbeat of gaming history. These are the tunes that define their eras and still echo through pop culture today. YouTube what's good, see you later gaming here, bringing you a brand new episode of Top 5. In today's episode, we're diving into the top 5 most iconic video game soundtracks. These are the soundtracks that transcended the games they came from, instantly recognizable, endlessly hummable, and forever legendary. Let's dive in. Starting off at number 5 with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. When Tony Hawk's Pro Skater dropped in back in 1999, it didn't just give us kickflips and 900s, it gave us a cultural reset in music. Songs like Superman by Goldfinger and Police Truck by Dead Kennedys didn't just set the tone. They turned skateboarding games into a gateway for discovering punk, ska, and hip-hop. The songs were curated through a collaborative, yet informal process of around 5 to 6 individuals at Neversoft who gathered their ripped tracks from their own personal collections. And being a small team with an even smaller budget, this meant that they had to find some deep cuts that wouldn't break the bank. Needless to say, the team had great taste, and without this soundtrack, many of us never would have built our first punk playlists. Next up at number 4, we have Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. Few soundtracks can make you instantly feel like a child again, like the 8-bit tunes of the first generation of Pokemon games. Junichi Masuda, the man behind the iconic songs, composed the entire soundtrack using the Game Boy's 4-channel sound chip, meaning he had to layer everything within strict hardware limits. This forced him to work with higher tones, resulting in the game's distinct, bright sound, and the use of simple, yet effective musical ideas. Influenced by the musical styles of classical music and the works of Igor Stravinsky and Dmitri Shostakovich, as well as his favourite musical genre techno, he creates the balance and emotion that you feel within the game, such as the frantic battle sequences that use staccato notes to fake percussion, and the iconic Lavender Town theme that is still one of the most unsettling pieces of music on a Nintendo console. The soundtrack inspired world building. Each route, gym, and town had its own distinct theme that made the journey unforgettable. Coming in at the halfway point with number 3, Minecraft. When you think of Minecraft, you probably hear C418's ambient piano and synth melodies floating in the background. Released in 2011, this wasn't your typical bombastic game soundtrack at all. It was minimalist, meditative, and sometimes even melancholy. C418, aka Daniel Rosenfeld, wrote much of the game's soundtrack and sound effects before Minecraft even had its survival mechanics fleshed out, meaning the music shaped the vibe of the game, not the other way around, even citing that the sound engine in the still early Java game was not very powerful, so Rosenfeld had to be very creative in his approach. And as a fun deep cut, Minecraft's creator Marcus Notch Pearson originally began collaborating on the music via TIG Source, and eventually gave Rosenfeld near total freedom, which is why the music feels so detached, yet so perfectly fitting. It's not hype music, it's reflective, giving you space to create, and that's why it's stuck. Coming in at number 2, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. Koji Kondo's Ocarina of Time score didn't just set the standard for fantasy gaming music, it turned the Nintendo 64's limitations into magic. Using the N64's tiny 4MB cartridge space, Kondo built unforgettable melodies like the Song of Storms and Gerudo Valley, using looping patterns and layered instruments to make them feel far larger than they actually were. The ocarina mechanic itself doubled as an in-game instrument and a teaching tool. The game literally made you play music to progress. That connection between gameplay and soundtrack was groundbreaking, and it's why fans still hum Zelda's lullaby decades later. And finally, coming in at number 1, Super Mario Bros. When you hear the overworld theme from Super Mario Bros., you don't just hear a video game, you hear the birth of modern gaming culture. On this list for a second time, Koji Kondo composed the soundtrack in 1985, working within the NES's 5-channel sound chip. Instead of writing background filler, he made music that matched Mario's jumps and momentum. The rhythm of the overworld theme even syncs with how most players instinctively run and jump. It's basically gameplay and music dancing together. And as a little bit of a deep cut, Kondo originally wrote the Underground theme as a jazz piece, but when it didn't fit, he stripped it down to those iconic bass notes. The result? One of the most instantly recognizable songs on the planet. So that's my list for the top 5 most iconic video game soundtracks of all time. From Skateboarding Rebellion to 8-Bit Journeys, Ambient Building and Symphonic Fantasy, all the way to the plumber who started it all. But I want to hear from you. What soundtrack instantly transports you back to your gaming childhood? Drop your pick in the comments below. And until next time, I'll see you later.
Tap the bell icon after subscribing and you'll never miss a video again. And consider checking out my Facebook page as well for daily gaming updates and news. Thanks guys.
Gaming has evolved, but some legendary franchises that once had us hooked have faded into obscurity. These are the games that defined their eras but somehow fell into the shadows. Now, it's time to give them the revival that they deserve.